This is the New Balance 1000, making a huge return in 2024 after 2 decades, leaving many people to believe that this is the next most popular sneaker. Guys, today we're taking a look at some extremely cool sneakers that you need to know about. And the New Balance 1000 is definitely one of those pairs. So the pair that actually marked the return for the New Balance 1000 was the collaboration between Joe Fresh Goods. So it's actually 2 different colorways, a more pinkish pair and the black ice colorway. And both pairs sold out instantly. To further solidify this collaboration in sneakerheads' brains, the marketing commercial for this collaboration release was a reenactment of the hilarious Get Money Boys newscast from the Jordan 11 Concord release back in 2011.
Now, it's a beautiful day here in Chicago, and I've actually got one of the guys, the first guys to get a pair of shoes today. What's your name, sir?
Yo, this live, yo. Deontay Jackson. Look, I'm a shoe connoisseur. You know, we the Get Money Boys from out west 290. You know, we been getting money. We been getting shoes.
I just got one of the first pairs. What's your name, sir?
Curtis Solomon. I'm a shoe connoisseur. I've been getting shoes. It was crazy out here. Like, you know, me and a group of my friends, you know, from Lakewood.
I actually thought it was great to see, super hilarious, and a fun way to do good marketing. The pair that I have is going to be dropping on April the 24th for $150. And this is really just the beginning of this model. This is kind of like the first GR colorway that's going to launch. But we've already seen leaked and rumored a ton of different colorways and collaborations that New Balance has in the pipeline for the 1000 model for the rest of the year. And despite me looking at this colorway and thinking to myself, like, I wouldn't typically pick up a metallic colorway, I'm actually pretty happy that I did, because these things look pretty cool. The design and I guess the colorway kind of reminds me a lot of the Silver Bullet Air Max 97s, but the contrast on this specific pair with the black mesh and I guess the sail outsole, I think really plays into each other nicely. The model itself originally released back in 1999, so it's really a case of New Balance going back into their archives and bringing out older sneakers. And obviously I think bringing these back is very fitting for today's style. The whole Y2K thing is definitely what people want. But I genuinely just think that this sneaker captures it a lot better than some of the other attempts from different brands. But apart from the style and the overall design, what I really like most about this pair of shoes is the comfort. So unlike a lot of other retro style sneakers where the midsole is pretty firm, these have a very soft midsole that you can like literally feel. It's soft and squishy and feels great underfoot. The midsole design actually reminds me a lot of the New Balance 9060, which I'm sure took some inspiration from this. The 9060s just have a much more sculpted and exaggerated look. The materials are nothing amazing when you feel these things. However, obviously I think that's mostly because of what this sneaker is. If you're gonna have this retro runner design, which is basically mesh with these metallic silver overlays, it is gonna end up feeling relatively plasticky. That's just something that comes part and parcel with this style. What is also really good with a lot of New Balance models is that they tend to expand the line of colorways with not just different colors, but also a ton of different materials as well. We've already seen some leaks and rumors of this pair of shoes, but in a leather version or a suede version, so I'm looking forward to that and just having more options on this sneaker in general. Depending on your preferences, you may want to wait around for a new colorway, a new version of these things, which again should be coming out later on this year. Overall, I would not be surprised if we start seeing a lot more people rocking the New Balance 1000 this year. I think it's a solid pair of sneakers, great price point, comfortable, and just overall a pretty cool looking pair of shoes. But next up we got a pair of sneakers that definitely has a lot more people divided. It's the Drake NOCTA Hot Step 2. So this is the 2nd generation version of Drake's flagship sneaker with Nike. And I want to say straight off the bat, there's some things I really like about this pair of shoes and some things that I really don't like. So let's just start with the price point, because I think that's one of the biggest problems with this sneaker. These are $200, which I think is pretty wild. Listen, I'm not completely against paying $200 for a pair of shoes, but if I do, they need to feel like something special. And sadly, I just don't think that these really do. First off, let's start with this material that they've added to the side. I honestly have no idea what the hell it is. You know, it kind of looks like plastic, it kind of feels like plastic, but according to Nike, it's a synthetic leather. And they say that in all caps for some reason. They also say unique eye stay, which, I mean, what? Because it's plastic? I just feel like this is a little bit of a weird choice of materials because it's kind of like they're using a synthetic leather for the sake of using a synthetic leather. It doesn't feel like anything else I felt from Nike, like you would find on a pair of, you know, Dunks. This feels a lot stiffer and kind of sounds like chalk when you press it. I just feel like with this design, what they're going for with this like futuristic lines and grooves on the side panel, they would have been much better off just using like a foam or some kind of rubber, which I think would have lended a lot nicer to the design, but I guess it achieves a similar thing. I just hope that whatever's underneath here doesn't end up creasing and folding over like we have seen with other synthetic leathers. The metallic vent on the side I think is kind of cool. It looks good. Definitely something that's different and I guess lends some kind of, you know, retro basketball design to this sneaker, kind of like what they did with the glides. But again, I can't imagine it's going to age very well, being just, you know, a plastic material that is probably going to end up peeling and very easily scuffed. The same thing with the back panel over here. The rest of the sneaker, I don't really have anything to complain about in terms of materials and quality, but I will say one thing which was kind of surprising is just how solid this pair of shoes feels. Like, it is a brick. Like, there's no flexing and bending. It's just, you know, the tongue is like the thing that you're gonna get the most movement out of. It is super rigid, which I don't necessarily know if that's a good or a bad thing. I think it's more typical with some like performance basketball shoes. They end up being pretty rigid, and I can understand that with those. However, this is definitely a lifestyle shoe, so I don't know how it's going to kind of wear over time. But again, surprisingly, sinking my feet into these things, they do feel pretty good. They're relatively comfortable and a nice feeling pair of shoes when you're wearing them. There's a nice squish to the midsole, specifically around the back, where you have a decently soft foam mixed with this air unit. It ends up being a nice feeling squish underfoot. And then there's the colorway, which I didn't really want to make a big deal about because there is plenty of other options on the horizon. We're going to get a ton more this year. But this orange is like staring at the solar eclipse. It is wild. I don't think I have ever seen an orange this fluorescent before. Like, I'm not even joking. This is probably the closest sneaker I have to it, and I used to think these things were super orange and vibrant. Again, something that was incredibly loud. However, next to the Noctas, they look desaturated and they look like they're not even orange. They're trying to be orange. Not only that, but this upper is actually reflective as well. So both of these side panels that you see with all of the lines and the grooves, there's no escaping the brightness. Day or night, you are going to be exposed to it. Now, on the one hand, I do think that this loud orange colorway could look really cool with some very specific outfits, and I think it's going to act as a really nice pop piece when you put it all together. But honestly, how often are you going to be wearing these before people start calling you the orange shoe guy? Because I can imagine this colorway is really going to stick in people's memories. They're going to remember you as the crazy person that exposed their eyes to something this bright. Personally, I would wait for different colorways, even though I do think this is really cool. If you want something that's going to have a little bit more wear in your rotation, some of the upcoming ones like the whites or the blacks, I think look really good on this silhouette. But most importantly, I would also potentially wait for the price to go down. Obviously, I can't say for certain, but if the original Hot Steps are going to give us anything, we could probably expect that these are going to have the similar or the same fate as those did, which is now you can pick up pretty much any colorway in that sneaker model for way under retail. I'm kind of hoping that that happens with these as well, because I would much prefer, and I would be happy to pay $130 to $150 for these things. And in that case, if you did spend that much, I would be like, this is a great option to pick up. It's a very cool looking pair of shoes. I think it looks good on foot, but $200, yeah, that's just a bit too much. Right, now the next sneaker, you're gonna have to stay with me on this one. This is the Arc'teryx Kragg. And yes, I'm fully aware that we just took a complete 180 in this video, and this sneaker is very different to the two other ones we just spoke about. But this shoe, I actually think is a very compelling option. So the design, extremely minimal. These things are, you know, barely a sneaker at this point. You've got a elasticated fabric upper with a midsole. You can't even really see a clear distinction between the midsole and the outsole. It just looks like one piece of rubber and then an upper. But what this is one of the most comfortable shoes that you could possibly get your hands on. So I first came across this pair of shoes from the floods of DMs that I got on Instagram of people telling me to try this pair of shoes out. it. Now, I had never bought anything from Arc'teryx before, except for a couple caps, so I didn't even know that this pair of shoes existed. And I was promised next level comfort, and they definitely delivered. So I've recommended a ton of people what I believe is the most comfortable shoes, not just people around me, but I mean, I also made a top 10 list, which inevitably most of those shoes end up being running shoes. They have a huge stack of cushioning underneath, which is unbelievably soft, and typically those are the most comfortable shoes that you can get. So something like this, I believe, is geared a lot more towards people who just want a pair of shoes to walk around in on a daily basis. They don't have a huge stack of foam underneath your feet, which are designed for runners. These are flat. They're super easy to slip on, and because of the minimal design, they're gonna go with 99% of your outfits. To me, this pair of shoes kind of falls in a similar category as like mules, but the comfort you're gonna get in these things is just way better. I also feel like there is an argument that these are gonna be a lot better for your feet over time. If you are gonna wear something every single day, you want something that is flat and just a little bit more natural shaped. It's got a lot of movement and bend to them so that your feet can naturally move the way that they're supposed to. And I fully get that these are definitely not gonna be for everyone. Some people won't like this design, but I feel like it's just so minimal and simple depending on your needs. If you do want a slip-on shoe, easy to slide on, easy to slide off, very, very comfortable, I think this could be a very, very good option. They're super lightweight, agile, very packable. Like, you take out this huge insole that they have inside, which is where a lot of the comfort comes from. This thing is like some memory foam, squishy, bouncy thing. It's phenomenal. But you just throw this in, and then this whole pair of shoes just basically packs up like a pair of Yeezy pods. But I guess unlike a pair of Yeezy pods, these do have a Vibram outsole, which makes them a lot more geared towards outdoor wear. I mean, Arc'teryx is an outdoor brand, so these things are definitely going to perform in a plethora of different scenarios. Not to mention that you do have some waterproofing and toe box protection, which is pretty solid. So overall, I think these are going to be one of the most versatile, comfortable shoes that you can possibly buy. So look, I think that this is a solid pair of shoes, and I'm really glad that I picked them up. Speaking of the most comfortable shoes, click over there to check out my top 10 most comfortable for 2024.